Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, alcoholics of all ages, welcome to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. So glad you're here, and I can't wait to get to our first guest of season 3. This is amazing. I've been watching this girl for quite a while. We've known each other just online for quite a while. And the progress that she has made in her life and in her sobriety is just amazing. So, without further ado, let's welcome Chris. Chris, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks, Doug. What an opening. What an introduction.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here today. I'm so grateful that you were able to join us. Can you tell the world a little bit about yourself, your experience, strength, and hope?
Absolutely. Gosh, I am just a little over 6 years sober. My sober date is 9/23/2019. And I say that date with a lot of conviction, a lot of gratitude, because I'll tell you this, that date I hold on near and dear to me. I had tried to get sober before, so I had various dates prior to that, but that date is written on my mirror in red lipstick. And underneath that, it says, I love you. So I look at that every single morning as I get ready, because at one point I couldn't look in the mirror. It just got to that point in my life. Very briefly, I grew up into an alcoholic home, lots of drama, lots of trauma. It was almost like I was predestined for this life. And it doesn't have to always be that way for everybody who comes from that background. But I come from a long line of alcoholics and addicts, unfortunately. And that was just the card I was dealt. Not knowing that, being a little over 6 years in, it comes with a lot of reflection. I look back and just kind of my childhood and how I was raised, and it's not to point blame anymore, but learning that those things that had led me to where I was led has also been a road of restoration for me. There was a lot of hurt, I from a very young age, at the early age of about 9 or 10, is when I started realizing, when I look back, there was so much anger. I was angry before I picked up, I was getting into fights really early on. And that really just tells me I was constantly running. I was running from this life that I was uneasy in my own skin for so long. And believe me, there's days where I'm still uneasy in my own skin. I may be sober, but it takes a daily recovery, right? Given the tools I was given. At the young age of 14, I started using other drugs and alcohol. And my dad, my biological father, is an alcoholic and lost his battle to this disease, unfortunately, at a very young age of 54. So I did not have a great relationship with him. However, I really wanted to. And I could never understand in my mind how somebody could choose drugs and alcohol over their children or their family. It didn't make sense to me. All I knew was like, he couldn't get it together. And as you're a child and you're looking at this, you don't understand that, And fast forward, I started picking up sort of those habits. And I had a career. I had, and I still do. I have a sales career. I do very well at, but I was also in this vortex of chaos, is how I put it, like this washing machine of daily battle of overachieving in what I did for my career. Yet I could not wait to get out of work to get into those happy hours in those bars. And that's all I could keep thinking about. And towards the end, I was like, there was so much chaos in my life, and I felt like I was constantly trying to keep things together the best that I could. I was holding on to everything that I could to make things look good on the outside when everything inside was crumbling. Nobody knew what was going on in my home. It was constant chaos in my home. Cops were called here all the time. And on the outside, it looked like I was a career woman. I had it all together. I was successful in everything that I did. But I just led this double life for a long time. And I just remember the pain, how much pain I was in, how much I was manipulating people at work to party with me. You know, it got to that point where even my employees, it was like I put them in positions where it was like, let's go out and drink all the time, you know. And what do they say? They're you know, they work for me. And some of them would love it. Yes, let's go. You know, Crystal's paying. I was always very much like, I got it. You know, I'll pay for everybody's drinks and the hot shot just so that I could go out and do these things. So for a very long time, Doug, I was an absent mom. You know, I was not a great wife either because I didn't want to be at home. I wanted to be out and about. Um, and at the very end, and this is where, you know, the longer that I'm sober, I go to AA meetings and I listen, right? I listen to the newcomer that walks in the door. Because for me, the longer I'm sober, it's easy to forget the pain that I was in and the chaos that I came from. So I'm constantly reminded of what it was like. And that's important to me. I don't have to live there anymore, but I never want to forget that I'm still an alcoholic in recovery. I never want to forget what it took for me to get to the point of surrender, because that's important. I tried to get sober in, 2017, I think it was. I was facing some legal repercussions for an outburst that I had, being in a blackout. And I got to a point where I sat in jail for a couple of days, you know, and the person in my cell said, maybe you should stop drinking. And I thought, well, who the hell are you? You're sitting here in jail. You've got 3 more years to go. You're going to tell me to stop drinking? And I was pretty pissed off, you know. And I left jail that day and I picked up right where I left off. And you go further down and I thought, okay, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe I'm going to go sit into these AA meetings and listen to what people are saying. And maybe I'm going to learn how to drink like a lady. And I walked into those AA meetings and I thought, what the hell am I doing here? You know, I didn't want to be a part of at all. I just thought I'd sit in the back of the room, not knowing anything about AA, sat in the back of the room and listened to everybody talk. And they were so happy, you know, they were happy, they were laughing. And then they wanted to become friends with me. And I went, oh, no, 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 no. You're crossing the line here. And I just thought, I don't want to be a part of this. And then I had a sponsor. This lady walked up to me and she said, I would like to be your sponsor. And I thought, okay, I guess this is something we do here. She became my sponsor and I couldn't stand her. I couldn't stand her. I thought, how are you going to tell me what to do? I don't want to call you every day. I don't know what to say to you every day. Like, I don't want to go to your house. I was just rebelling the entire time. But you go to 2019. So 2017, I left AA. Let's fast forward this. I left AA and I picked up right where I left off again. And that last bout caused me so much grief, so much pain that I walked my butt right back into AA. I was given the gift of desperation on 9/22/2019. I had my last drinking episode, and I woke up the next morning at the side of my bed with a husband looking at me crying and saying, I don't know how to help you anymore. And I got on my knees, still hungover, and I cried out to this higher power who I call God. And I said, if you're real, I really need this. I need you to intervene and help me because I can't do this by myself. And I will tell you, from that day forward, I walked into my first AA meeting truly surrendered this time, truly in my soul, knowing that I needed to do this to survive. And I sat my butt in that chair and listened and humbly accepted what everybody was telling me, what everybody was sharing. The big book came alive to me. The words stuck out to me. And I will tell you, it took surrender. It took everything in my body to know that I was done and that I had no other choice. That gift is something I will never want. I was told in the rooms of AA, don't shit on the gift. Excuse my French. So I don't shit on the gift today. So when you call and you reach out and you say, hey, would you like to be on the show? Would you like to share your story? This is what I mean. I give back. It's a gift that was so freely given to me. Why wouldn't I want to be a part of helping other people and sharing that recovery is possible? Because it is. It's hard in the beginning, but it gets so much easier as it goes on. You just got to hang on. And when they say one day at a time, it truly is one day at a time. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not promised. So let's live today. And you see that, you talk about my working out and I'm 53 years old, and I get to do these things. I get to be in CrossFit. I get to laugh. I get to smile today. I didn't smile for so long, Doug. It was crazy. And so my kids today tell me that, my goodness, Mom, you're so silly. My goodness, Mom, you laugh all the time. There's so much laughter in my house. No more holes in the walls, Doug. No more holes on the walls. We love life here. They have their mom back. My granddaughter has me in her life. Had I not gotten sober, my family, I don't know where we would be today. I wouldn't have my house. I wouldn't have my career. I would be barely hanging on, if not dead. I can honestly say that. I'm truly grateful for this gift. It's like I get to live a second life all over again. You've got this choice, right? And so there I go.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that message of experience, strength, and hope. What was that thing again you said? Shitting on the gift. Don't shit on the gift. That's a great message. for me, it's not only you just sharing about your journey, it's sharing about your growth,
Yeah.
and where you were and to where you are now, so I'm blessed you're here. I'm blessed you decided to give recovery another chance, and look at you now. Like you're just
Yeah.
amazing, so you're I know quite a few people now in Seattle. Like, is there something in the water in Seattle that's making everybody alcoholics? What's going on here?
It's dark and gloomy and yeah. I mean, it's a think about it though. We have amazing restaurants and happy hours, and it just calls you in, right? You're like, oh yeah, let's check this place out, check that place out. I mean, it's everywhere. Not that it's not in other states, but
Yeah.
my goodness, like if it lures you in, those pretty
Hmm.
little bottles and pretty little drinks, it does
Yeah.
that.
And I think it's so accessibly available today, where, like, you go to a gas station and there it is. You can't go anywhere in the world today. Like, you can't do any activity without that being an option. You know what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah, we live in a world just surrounded by it. In my and again in my industry, right? It's everywhere. Events are like open bars all the time, and drink all you can and drink all you want. And I've had to navigate that as well.
yeah. One thing I was thinking about when you were sharing was that if you could change, like let's pretend right now you're talking to somebody who is maybe thinking about getting sober, or maybe there's a parent or a relative, an aunt, an uncle, or something like that, where they're watching this, and they're really hoping that themselves or their relative, gets clean and sober. What's one misconception you can say today that you really worried about before you got sober?
That I really worried about.
Yeah, like some people, I hear when some people get sober that, that the whole, especially with, AA or other 12-step programs, that whole God concept, like when they come in and they're like, oh, well, it's really not about that. It's about,
Yeah,
something else. Or like some people will say, like, I'm never gonna have fun ever again.
yeah.
Like a misconception of like what you thought before you started recovery to where you are now. What's the difference?
Yeah, absolutely. For a really long time, and I had to process this, was losing friendships.
Mm,
And it's along the lines of having fun. But I was such a social drinker and partier that I really did think that I was afraid of that. I was afraid of losing those relationships. And so it kept me tied to that. Like, how am I going to lose these people? They're never going to like me. So
mm,
that's another thing. Is she going to be likable? Right. And it all boiled down to I did lose those friendships, but I lost them in such a way that it was almost like my higher power, God just kind of prepared me for that. I started to fall in love with myself as those relationships started closing. It was beautiful.
mm.
It was hard, but it was beautiful, and it hurt a little bit. So those are the struggles, the people that tied me and that kept me going. I think I put those people first, above myself and my family. But you find new friendships in AA, true friendships.
Yeah.
True, you start to go, oh my gosh, I can be my own friend,
Hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite a good feeling, when people can rely on you, and
Yeah.
and know that you're there for, the right intentions and the right, reasons. How is your relationship, would you say, with your family, and especially your in-home family? How would you say that that has changed since you got sober?
Oh, it's like night and day. It is night and day. It's beautiful. And I use beautiful all the time because it truly is. I was on the verge, I have adult children now, but they were they didn't know how to help me, and I was constantly running to them and manipulating them because my husband and I were fighting all the time. So I always felt like I needed to keep them on my side, and it started this whole manipulation process. Um, and it got to a point where they weren't wanting to talk to me. They didn't want to be around me. I was a loose cannon. And my husband was just at a point where, he was angry. He was angry. He was sad. He was going through this whole, I don't know how to deal with her. And today we are like, we're friends. For so long we were enemies, it felt like, and that was because it was I was so lost, and trying to pretend the entire time. But now we go and we do things together. We're empty nesters, and so it bred new life into our relationship, and the relationship that I have with my children and with
Yeah.
my granddaughter. It's amazing how different it is because of the gift of recovery.
Mm. Do you think like I don't know, I don't want to pry too much in your home
No, go
life, but
ahead.
like, do your children do they drink as maybe much as you did, or like do they, have you scared them off?
No, they're normies.
Oh yeah.
They are, and I don't see they're not really drinkers.
Mm.
They could take it or leave it. So I don't have a lot of that in my home, and I don't see them. They're not like that. They're into their careers. They just they don't go out much. Believe it or not, they come over to my house now.
Yeah.
They come over and we hang out. That was not happening before, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
So when you're at home, do I know when I got sober, there were certain things that I seen all the time, whether it was on TV or like in past movies and things like that, that really affected my emotions. My emotions kind of like, now that you're sober, I'm more of a crier today. I'm not ashamed to admit that, but like, has there ever been like a moment like you've had like that where you were just like at home going,
It just happened the other day. I was watching a movie. I was watching a movie, and it's funny you say that, and I'm glad that you did say that because my daughters say that all the time. They're like, "Mom's such a crybaby now," and they just know it. And Doug, what is it? Like we get to feel again. It's strange, but the first time when I first got sober, I was crying all the time for anything, and I think it was just the ups and downs of being newly sober. But now it's just like I have a heart, I have
yeah.
compassion. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, movies or conversations, even my girls are like, "Are you crying again?" Yeah, it just, your heart opens up.
Yeah. There's that scene in that movie Flight with Denzel Washington,
Yeah,
like right towards the end where he can't come to grips with admitting that he has an issue or he has a problem. And
yeah.
like the court hearing is like there and everything is resting on his shoulders, like whatever he says, right? And that lady, I forget what she says to him, but he like kind of whispers into the mic, he's like, God help me,
Yeah,
and then she was like, what was that? And he like admitted that he was an alcoholic and that it was his fault because he was doing what he was doing, and I remember the first time seeing that when I got sober, and I was just like, I was weeping, I was
yeah.
just crying because I was just like, I know what that moment feels like. I
Yeah.
know what those moments feel like. So today, like when, and I can't even remember the Christmas movie, but it's become my favorite Christmas movie, where George Bailey, is if anybody out there knows it, text me or email me. George Bailey is like, he's kind of let his life slip away and he's kind of let alcohol kind of like take over a little bit. And, he's thinking about suicide and
Yeah.
he's got a whole family at home. That was the difference. I didn't care who was at home, when I was
Yeah.
doing my thing. I didn't care who I was going to affect, so if you could change one thing today, what would that be?
Oh, we're going to stop doing this immediately. I wish we could stop. I wish we could get fentanyl off the streets.
Mm, mm. Yeah,
Eh,
it was. It's tough. I lost a brother, who was 12 years older than me, a couple years ago to that, and it's nasty stuff. Nasty.
It is. I mean, people are dropping like flies. Not that alcohol isn't the same. I think we're getting close with alcohol, being listed now as a carcinogen.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're getting to that. But yeah, I think it would be fentanyl. And on the other hand, I mean, alcohol is going to be there, right? I think alcohol is definitely something that people can leave or take, and normal people can go out and have a drink. I have no concept of what a drink is.
Okay, quick, 30 seconds
Yeah,
left.
go for it.
What's next for Chris? What's coming up in Chris's life?
You know that it's tough. It's one day at a time for me. It really is. I wish I could tell you I've got these big plans and I don't. I've come to terms with I'm kind of a boring person.
That's all right.
I'm
Boring's good.
routine, but I was so chaotic before. So
Yeah.
this is cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today on Canadian Sober. Hey, I'm so glad you're able to do it. Peace and love, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
What an honor. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you all next week. Bye bye for now.